Dealing with strike action 101. This is stuff employers should know.
Welcome to Stuff Employers Should Know, proudly brought to you by LabourNet, management's ultimate HR solution.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Barry Gordon-Davis, and on today's episode of Stuff Employers Should Know, we're doing things a little bit differently. We want to do one of these sessions where it's a bit of a 101, i.e. everything relating to a specific topic that's in a pre-recorded session. This session is going to be hosted or recorded, or let's say spoken, by Lehan Goosen, who's a litigator out of the LabourNet branch in Cape Town. So with that being said, let's hand over to Lehan.
Hi, my name is Lehan Goosen. I'm a litigator with the LabourNet Western Cape branch. I'm allocated and tasked with assisting international and national clients with labour-related litigation matters. For the pilot of Lehan Talks Labour, I will be addressing the all-importance of strike action, specifically owing to the fact that it's that time of the year where trade unions and their members wish to forewarn their collective bargaining powers and prowesses by commencing with strike action and forcing employers to accept their demands. What would this entail is that I'll be addressing a few points on strikes. Importantly, the right to strike, the procedural requirements that goes hand in hand with the right to strike, the limitation on strikes, misconduct during strikes, and what is left for the employer to do upon strike. In terms of the first point, the right to strike is a fundamental constitutional right that's afforded to every worker and employee in South Africa. This means that every employee and worker in South Africa is clothed with the fundamental constitutional right to down their weapons and tools with the purpose of flexing their collective bargaining prowesses in an attempt to move the employer in accepting a demand of mutual interest. With this right comes the need to be compliant with certain requirements. Even though an employee or worker is clothed with this constitutional fundamental right, they still need to comply with certain requirements. These requirements will be found and contained in the structures of the Labour Relations Act. With that being said, there are an employee or a worker who is limited from exercising his or her fundamental constitutional right to strike. That would be an employee that performs a core function, a core duty within the essential services. The relevant case law here will be the Popcrow case. From a practical point of view, the commencement of the action of strike shares a nexus and walks hand in hand with the commission of misconduct. Once strike action commences, there is a high likelihood of employees committing misconduct. Employers are beckoned with the question, or tasked with the question, can I discipline or sanction an employee for committing misconduct during strike action? The answer to that question is twofold. Once strike action commences and is protected, meaning it's compliant with the procedural requirements as set out in the Labour Relations Act, a worker and employee may not be disciplined for participation in the strike. This does not preclude an employer from disciplining an employee for committing ordinary misconduct. Ultimately, the question employers are left with is, what are my tools? What is my action plan? What do I stand to do? The answer is found in the mechanism called a lockout. The purpose of a lockout is to pause the employment contract for the duration of the strike to ensure with the purpose or intent of having the employee accept the demand of the employer. This would mean that as the employment contract is paused, the employee is unable to render his or her service, and the employer would not need to remunerate the employee, all in an attempt for the employee to accept the demand of the employer. From a practical point of view, it's extremely important for employers to contact a labour law expert to assist with a strike action plan. A strike action plan is created with the purpose of providing employers with direction on how to manage strikers to ensure the employer is organized and calm when facing a strike. In conclusion, I don't care much if employers walk away from this episode not knowing the in and outs of the Labour Relations Act or the know-hows of strike action or legal jargon pertaining to strike action for that matter. But what I do want employers to walk away with from this episode is knowing that out there, that we at LabourNet have the best interest of employers at heart. Knowing that the business operation and the business legacy of your operations are protected and in safe hands, as we will ensure safe compliance. Thank you for tuning in for the first episode of Lehan Talks Labour. Bye-bye.
Stuff Employers Should Know was proudly brought to you by LabourNet, management's ultimate HR solution. For more episodes from Stuff Employers Should Know, go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you play your favorite shows. Case law or statutes referenced in the podcast are current at the time of recording.